Hey guys, welcome back to another week's of econ class, online class. This week we dove into chapter 4, which talks about externalities. Basically what it is whether someone is affected by what you do that is not directly involved with it. So, if I'm smoking and my friend next to me is not smoking, like, they're not smoking, I'm the one smoking, but they're still affected by it. Basically what is a little imagery of that. And there's some problems that arise when we think about this, because some people don't mind the smoking of if the area of people are smoking around them. Some people do. Some people take it more serious than others, because there's a lot of psychology to it, how it affects your brain, and ultimately what is the reason why they don't want to do something. Let's say you put a tree in your front yard. Well, some people might take that as, wow, it's very beautiful, that house is very nice. So some people might be like, ew, now they have a tree blocking their house. So you don't know what the ultimately the reason why they think that. And that's kind of the point, is you kind of have to look on the broad terms. And let's give an example of cars, driving to work. The reason why people drive to work, and how can we get people to drive less, like traffic jams. Why does they occur? Why don't we just all take buses? But then that wouldn't be convenient for everyone, because then you have to wait on the bus. Even though it sounds more economic and convenient if everyone got on the bus, because they hold more space. But then that would require people to delay their time getting to a place, because they have to wait on the bus, and then you have to drive the bus, and then you have people accessibilities, they need to get on the bus, so it takes a longer time. And then so traffic jams cause congestions, and then pollution. Some people are like, oh well, then the gas emits all this pollution, it's bad for the air, and blah blah blah. And then accidents, there's a lot of cars on the road. The more cars on the road, the more accidents. But is that really the reason why there's accidents? Maybe not. So there's a lot of things you gotta take into perspective of these externalities, whether they're positive or negative, to ultimately uncover the meaning and trying to do a proposed solution. And then Hartford had a proposed solution of externality pricing. So basically, in the scenario in the book, they had, how can we get these people at the bar to drink less and to get less drunk, I think. And so basically, had a buy-in. And then once you buy in, you can have unlimited drinks. Well, that doesn't really solve the problem. So they were like, you know what, let's raise the price. Well, people still was like, you know what, I'd rather spend more and then get this drink and then drink another one. Because if you just get one drink, there's no point of doing it. So they're like, you know what, might as well just drink another drink. And so it wasn't really raising the price. And basically what he proposed was that each individual pay for their individually drink. Because that makes sense. It's the most logical reason. To make them drink less, because they have to pay for each individual instead of a buy-in, and then it's all in. You know what I'm saying? It makes it a whole lot easier. And so basically for with the cars and all that, well, they have a tax or a toll on each purchase, and that would help determine how many people actually drive and all that. And basically the broad scope of this chapter is to kind of have individuals, us, open our eyes that not everything is about us. What we do affects other people. How you portray yourself affects other people. What you do in private reflects what you do in public, hopefully, in a good way. But what you do, people are always watching. They're always seeing what you do, and they always play an effect. And this is more about economics, and business is more about personal life too. If you're smoking all the time, you know, it might influence people to smoke, or, you know, they might get secondhand smoke. So it affects other people, and whether you think it doesn't affect people, it does. So you always got to be responsible and have a good nature and a good well-rounded version of yourself. You know, you got to look into the broader things, that this world doesn't revolve around you, and that every little thing that you do, you purchase, that that you support, that you do, it affects other people, you know. So that's kind of the broader things that you do, and you can never measure exactly externalities, because it's impossible. Like, you don't know the psychology behind, you don't know the reason why people do certain things. You may, and there's an educated guess you can do, but deep down everyone has different scales of each thing. So basically, this whole chapter talks about externalities, positives and the negatives, and how we can find solutions for them. And ultimately, it's just being there for each other and looking that it affects other people, whether you believe it or not, and that your choices you make does lead and ultimately will change the behavior of other people around you. It doesn't cause the behavior, you know. You can't make someone jump off the cliff and that'd be the reason why they jump off the cliff, but you can influence, you can spark people to behave a certain way. So make good choices, and yeah, that's about it.